I would like to introduce myself, and then I would like you to introduce yourself. Hi, I am Himawari Ono, and I am I am a student in Japan, and I'm living in Japan. And the reason why I had this Zoom session is that I want to figure out what differences are there in countries about the perspective of campus counseling services.
Hi, my name is Aya. I currently live in the United States in Los Angeles area. I am a graduate from UCLA, and I'm 22 years old.
I'm Carl. I am 23 years old, and I'm living in the United States in the San Francisco Bay Area.
My name is Brandon. I recently graduated from UC Santa Barbara last June.
My name is Cindy. I'm from Seoul, and I'm currently 22 years old, and I go to school in Seoul right now.
My name is Nam Jo, but you can just call me Nam. And I also live in Korea, Seoul, and I'm fourth year in Yonsei University. I've been to UCLA for exchange student about a year. Yeah, that's all.
Hello everyone, my name is Saho Kojima. I'm currently a fourth year university student at Meji Gakuin University, same with Hima, and I'm 22 years old, and I hope to get to know all of you today. Thank you.
Roman, I'm from Japan, and I'm 21. Yeah, nice to meet you.
First question to you guys is, have you ever had some problems or concerns which you could not solve by yourself? And if yes, what action did you take at the time? If no, what would you do if you have those complex problems? Then first, Aya-chan, could you answer this question?
I have definitely had a lot of things I couldn't handle on my own. Initially, I swept it under the rug and ignored it. But eventually, yeah, I ended up getting help for that. Not with campus counseling first, but I did end up getting help with that.
I initially just ignore it, and it's probably because I can't really think rationally at the first time. And I usually take a nap and probably ask for help probably to my friends or families.
I think, yeah, I'm also very much the same. I also really like taking naps when I'm stressed out, and I also ask a lot of help to my to families or my friends.
I usually go towards my family, my parents. I feel like they know me the best, so they can help me console my problems. I barely talk to my friends or my peers about my problems. I don't know if it's just insecurity issues or something, but yeah, my parents are the best place to go for me.
I face maybe some problem in school environment. Maybe summarize current situation which I'm in on papers, and then I find what I should do. But maybe.
Next question is, have you ever feel like using counseling services on campus? And if yes, have you actually used the counseling services on campus? And if no, have you ever considered counseling services on campus as the place you can easily consult your problems?
When I first started at UCSB, my freshman and sophomore year, I didn't really think about counseling services. And it was towards the end of the middle to end of sophomore year, I started going to use counseling services there because I really wanted to really help myself out, because I knew I was going to go abroad to study in the UK for a year. And I knew that I needed that resource to help me out as well. And they helped me connect with even resources within the UK that helped me find counseling services there during my time abroad.
So in my sophomore year, I had a small depression issue, and my friend, she used to have similar issue with me. And I knew she went to school counseling service. So I asked her if she would recommend that to me. And she didn't, and she explained that they were showing less concern compared to other profession counseling services outside of campus. So hearing from her, I decided not to really ask for help from campus service Yeah.
Yeah, I have never used school counseling service, but I have ever considered using it, but I didn't use it because yeah, I could not know what kind of issue I should consult with this counseling center. So yeah, I have had some problems in my school environment, but I couldn't use school counseling service to solve these problems, I think.
For like last 6 months, as I said, I use school counseling services because my mom works as a counselor in middle school. I think that's why it was more easy for me to use school counseling services. And I know that like in Korea, people don't really trust or use counseling services that much. I can't explain for what's the exact reason is.
Like as Nam mentioned, like sorry, he was not sure the exact reason, but what do you think about it, Cindy?
I'm not really sure, but I think it's mostly about it's not kept secret most of the time, because like there could be some like family issues when we take counseling services in Korea, and I've seen some cases like those private issues have come out to the public and where friends got to know about them.
For me personally, I never used campus counseling services, but I have used counseling services for elementary and middle school, mostly because my parents recommended it to me. But for university, I did have a point in my university time where I wanted to. I maybe thought of getting help from a third person, but like gradually I thought that like I can handle this on my own. I became more confident in myself that I didn't need a counseling service.
Similar to all of you guys, I did know of the existence of counseling services. So what I actually did was I went to campus counseling services at the community college I was taking classes at in high school. So I was high school age, and I just so happened to have community college classes that I was taking, and I ended up going in secret. So I told my parents I have a math class, but my math class was actually me meeting with a counselor. It ended up being at least something that was consistent and regular in my life. And then when I ended up going to university after I graduated high school, I tried to go to campus counseling services at UCLA, and that was not that great because it's a scheduling nightmare. Or even if you needed help, you would have to sit through a waiting room of about a month and a half.
So at my time at UCSB, I went through two different counseling services. So one on campus and then one outside that was private. And I think for me, the UCSB was really good in terms of helping me out initially when it came to my stresses with classes. But when it came to more serious other issues that I've had, it was the private counselors that helped me out as well. What was the bigger difference was that at UCSB, because they have so many students coming in, and the time slot that I had, it was only about like a half an hour slot where I can meet with them. I wasn't really able to say much that I wanted. And then for me to wait 3 weeks, almost to a month, like for another follow-up, it felt a bit frustrating. So once I started going to the private physician, I was able to book hour and a half slot, or even sometimes they can meet me for as long as I need that I can book them for. It was more convenient. They really cared more towards the time that I needed to be allotted, and they worked around my schedule a lot more than it was for UCSB.
Have you ever feel uncomfortable to visit counseling services on campus?
When I tried to go to school counseling service, yeah, I was very sensitive to maybe people's eyes. People looking at me will think, I have really serious mental problem and so on. These are very negative image on me. And so because of this, I felt some uncomfortableness.
Thinking back to my previous experiences from middle school, I do have the fear that like people will look at me and people may judge me for going to counseling. I think that like, having issues and maybe the whole topic of mental health isn't widely addressed enough in Japan and maybe South Korea as well.
I would like to ask about this to Cindy, Nam, and Aya.
I agree to what Nam said through chatting. I think the basic perception towards counseling itself, it's pretty much different compared to USA here in Korea. I think people tend to think counseling services are for really serious illness or serious mental issues. It's not for someone who is just going over, light issues. So for me, I tend to feel uncomfortable about just like trying school counseling services as well because of that perception.
Then thank you for sharing your thoughts, Cindy. Thank you. How about Aya-chan? Aya, what do you think?
I mean, I mentioned in the chat, my mom is from Japan, my dad is from America. They both have very different views on therapy and counseling services. So my dad, his perspective being an American has been, don't worry about it, just go, we have the insurance, we can cover it, take advantage of it, like put your mental health first. While my mom is like the person who, like, as we're flying back to Japan, she's like, don't, it, like, when after I had told her anything about it, which I did not tell her much, I didn't tell either of my parents much, but if she like knew anything, she'd be like, don't say that you're depressed, don't say that you're feeling these things, don't say any of this stuff to your family in Japan because everyone's going to talk and they're going to hear and you're going to be like, yeah, it's weakness, like it's not good public image, because there's such a negative stigma about getting help. And she said, because you're, another thing that might be important is that, like, I think as a girl, it's a little bit more okay for me to have more mental health issues. But I do know one of my cousins who is a boy, he goes to school in Japan, and he told me, because I'm his American cousin and he thought he could talk to me about it, but he's like, don't tell my mom, don't tell my dad, don't tell anyone, like, please, like, if I do this, like, someone's gonna like disown me. It's like really, really heavy stigma. He's like, I need to be strong, like I need to be independent and I can't have any problems. I think there's definitely a really big difference in those two. And the thing that ended up turning my mom's tide was not so much like her daughter is mentally not well, but it was more so like, oh, it's already included in your student plan, it's a good deal. So it's kind of like there's different values, I think, in both of them. Like, not to say that she doesn't care, but like I think she just was raised not to talk about it, while my dad was raised to discuss it at length.
I see. That's so interesting. Thank you for sharing your experience and thoughts, Aya-chan. Thank you. And I would like to ask Carl and Nam about, do you think there is stigma toward counseling services in the United States and South Korea? So firstly, how about Carl? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I guess being at UCSB, where they've advocated a lot about mental health and well-being, that there really isn't much of a stigma within the campus setting that I was at about making sure that you seek help, that you always really look forward to your mental health and making sure that you receive counseling. And it goes within, I guess, the way that in America that mental health has started to become a really big issue, especially for our generation as young adults, especially that they know about how we're being more susceptible to depression, to anxiety, to stress. And so a lot of what we have here in America, we're really pushing forward for resources towards mental health and prevention of any mental illnesses that can occur. So there isn't really much, at least in what I can say, is a stigma within seeking counseling as a student.
Just want to add one thing, bouncing off of what Carl said. In America, depression is seen as a very serious issue, like, because depression does lead to, like, you know, like, people commit suicide. It's really mentally debilitating. It affects your neurological. Being neurotypical is a lot different than being, of course, like depressed or anxious. In America, they classify it as a very serious issue. While from what I know in Japan, they do not as much. I'm assuming also in like Korea and the Philippines, like in Asian culture, I don't think they see depression. They're like, oh, you're just sad. Oh, you're not feeling well. Oh, it's a passing thing.
I would like to ask questions like how we can get rid of those stigma or non-seriousness about depression in each country.
I'm not sure this is true, but there's a rumor that, like, if you use counseling services and like take medicine, like takes prescriptions, and like that record will show when you apply for a job. I think that can be also the other reason for like Koreans hesitate to use counseling services.
Now it's like the depression or mental health issues, it's becoming to be like recognized as serious issues in Korea because a lot of celebrities have committed suicide out of depression recently. But like only 10 or 20 years ago, depression or mental health issues hasn't been considered as a serious issue in Korea. So I heard that there has been some disadvantages or penalties in employment if you have that record or of getting prescriptions for mental health. So I'm pretty sure that wasn't just a rumor, but was something what Korea had.
And how about Yabuki? Do you think there is such penalty in Japan?
Yeah, I think there is something like penalty in maybe dog hunting or maybe walking situation.
Thank you. And how about Saho? Do you have any comments on Yabuki's those?
Maybe as Yabuki said, the company may perceive it in a negative way, so they may respect you less.
Okay, next I would like to ask you guys how we can get rid of those stigma or negativity of using counseling services in Japan, South Korea, and the United States. So how about Carl? What do you think so far?
I think it really does come into discussion about bringing the serious issue of mental health into every aspect. And it was interesting hearing from Yabuki-san and Soho about what's been going on in Japan and also with Nam and Cindy in Korea, because I know in California we have this thing where it's the Equal Employment Act. I'm not sure what it is exactly, but what it does is that it doesn't discriminate against anyone with disabilities, and those disability category also includes mental health. So government actions, legislation to ensure that you can protect people from being discriminated against being into mental health or getting into counseling services. That's one way of going for it. If you really want to bring out that stigma, it does come simply in discussing, speaking to others, talking to people about mental health, why it's good to seek help and to get help, and the importance of why we need to have resources for mental health.
But I definitely agree with Carl. I think that the biggest way to I think a very good way to remove that stigma, it's not going to happen all at once. I think it's bit by bit, but open discussions and education.
I think what Carl and Aya said pretty much sums up everything we have to think about in order to get rid of the stigma. But I personally think that government policy to ban any types of disadvantages that's caused because of getting counseling services, I think that's like the first step we have to take, especially in Korea.
And like, I think school should do that, or school or government should teach that it's okay to use counseling services, or it's a really daily based thing like that. Yeah. And also like Korea has the highest suicide rate among like OECD countries. I think that's also related with these issues. So yeah, I don't know. I think we should work on it a lot more, I guess.
I think that what surprised me a lot about coming to college was just how open people are talking about mental health. And I remember this discussion wasn't really that big in high school in California. And then I went to college in California. I remember, even on the syllabus of every class I took, it says, if you need help with some mental health problem, please visit a counselor. The fact that, every teacher put that in their syllabus, it kind of shows me that at the very least, there's more discussion happening these days.
Personally, to Saho and Yabuki, I would like to ask you guys, like, at your college campus, what kind of activity do you want what kind of activities do you want them to have for people to use more counseling services?
I think that my university should first promote the counseling services better, because I only heard about the counseling, that there is a counseling service in my school, just because in one class we had to interview each, a facility for this course that we needed to take. And that was including the cafeterias, libraries, and the counseling service. So that was the first time I actually heard about that there is an existence of it. So if I didn't take that class, I would probably never have known. So I think that as maybe Brandon has said, the accessibility should be better.
Yeah, because of COVID-19, maybe a lot of maybe counseling service started to be conducted by video conference or as a telemedicine system, I think. So yeah, applying this system to university counseling system, maybe student can easily to use school counseling service, because they can join their school counseling session via video conference such as Zoom or Skype.
Thank you for coming today, all of you guys, and thank you for sharing your ideas and join the discussion with you guys. ありがとうございました. Thank you so much for today.